Welcome to the Tom Nelson podcast. And today I have Willie Soon here to talk, I think, about solar influences and maybe some historical stuff. Willie, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit just to get us going?
Okay. Again, this is Willie Soon. I am one of those regular scientists that's been working on this topic for a very long time. In fact, it's almost over 30 years for sure. I've been doing this out of a very simple sort of passion of mine, which is, of course, to understand what happened and, how does climate change. I mean, all this extra burden coming from this obsession of demonizing carbon dioxide is really a terrible, part of the process that I really dislike. Of course, it got me tangled into so many of these webs that I found myself really caught up in some very strange situation in many ways. I mean, if I may introduce myself in the sense that I'm, again, that very curious person. You look over these 32, 33 years of work by now, here's the number of things I have to deal with. Instead of just working on climate and science climate, it's really a hard problem, by the way. Problem is constrained by the amount of evidence we have, the observation we have, that sort of thing. We don't have enough information. Even the information we have, which we can talk about, the surface thermometer data, how terrible they are in the sense that if you are not processing it correctly, you're looking at junk. No wonder they can keep arguing all the way, but there's so many problems. Many of your guests have spoken on that. But the problem I have to deal with, look, there's so many politics involved. The first thing that came into my horizon early on was when I tried to publish this sun-climate connection work, straightforward. The first incident was already in 92 to 94. It took us 2 years to try to get a paper argued because we have found some very strong evidence that the sun, like stars, can vary by very large amount. Okay? Not like what we see in the current sun, which is only like 0.1% or 0.2 peak to peak. But we have found something as large as factor of 3 or 4 larger. That has very strong implication for Earth climate. So we tried to get this published in Nature magazine. And that took us, Nature really was trying to destroy this paper, but really, as a manuscript. I was a young postdoc. I was working with a Harvard graduate student. And we really come up with something very beautiful. And eventually they rejected it, but because went and forth, back and forth. One time there were 3 reviewers, they were already approved, and then they go find a 4th one to try to reject that. Of all of this, if I can drop some name, Sir John Maddox was in charge of that manuscript. Sir John Maddox is legendary in Nature magazine in the sense that he's the chief editor, so on and so forth, right? And but it takes us only 7 days plus, it's a weekend. So it's about 6-7 days to get the paper approved in the most prestigious astrophysical journal letter. So eventually we submitted the paper to Astrophysical Journal letters and it got approved in 7 days or 6 days, right? It tells you that in terms of the finding, it's very exciting. As a young postdoc and a PhD student, we wanted to publish in the most ambitious journal you can find, which is Nature. Unfortunately, it's as early as that. They were already trying to kind of censor everything. You know what I mean? Like these days, you can talk about the peer review system that is so terrible that I think we're going to have a hard time believing that this is actually science. This is why I wouldn't say that I'm disillusioned by now, but it's so terrible. Okay, so one problem. Just very beginning of my postdoc career, right? I came to Harvard Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics in September of 1991. By 92, we already found this result and we want to publish. So it takes us that long. For a postdoc, it's like a death sentence, 2 years to get a very beautiful paper published is just crazy. But of course, in the meantime, I did so many other work. Anyway, so that's not important. Again, I'm not interested in career. I don't even care about anything, right? Except what do we find? That sort of thing, all the excitement. Then it dragged on. And then I do all kinds of stuff in terms of, I even created climate models. I do all kinds of things, right? And then, strangely, 1998, 99, the famous paper, right? It's called Man Hockey Stick, Michael Mann, right? The professor at UPenn now. who published this result. By the way, I was cordially exchanging email with them. I have those emails, by the way. So, sorry, Michael Mann, we have evidence. You can disown me all you want, but we have a lot of exchanges. And even to the point where the famous Stephen McIntyre found that censored directly. I mean, just want to set the record straight. I was the guy that pointed that to McIntyre. He may have forgotten, but it was that kind of story. I don't want any credit, zero. The only thing is science go straight forward. But I want to tell, I did everything. That's what the kind of thing I do. Even Michael Crichton testimony in the US Senate, one time, we were working behind the scene, persuade him to go on things like that, right? So I can touch Michael Crichton. I can even touch the computer genius, John McCarthy from Stanford, that sort of thing. So my career is rich. I have even chat with Karen Mullis, the late Karen Mullis, the Nobel Prize winner who invented this PCR technique, which is a Xerox machine for DNA, that kind of stuff, right? That sort of thing. So by 2003, 1998, look, everybody was frozen. And then we said this result couldn't be true, right? Come on, man. And then the whole business at that time was, it's empirical orthogonal function, it's mathematics, so difficult. But those things are really trivial. Things like that don't scare people like me, obviously, because we're well trained in mathematics and physics and so on and so forth. So we work on that. We look at it's not possible. Come on, it's not possible. So I was waiting, really waiting, because at that time I was already studying a lot of paleo data, just like Michael Mann did, right? That's why we were communicating in 95, 96. If you want to study how the sun impacts the climate system, what better data to study than to find out about how much does the climate varies? Maybe a pattern that is very similar to what the fingerprint of the sun would do. So I work on a lot of that topic, published a lot of papers, by the way, and waited for almost 3 years. No one did anything. 3-4 years, okay? No one did anything. And okay, by 2001, 2002, I was already fed up because one time, at least we tried to submit a paper on science climate, and the paper came back saying that, how come you don't cite this world famous paper? So-called, they didn't phrase it that way, obviously, but how come you don't cite Mann, Bradley, and Hughes, right? I mean, this is the kind of stuff. They are now, this day, of course, you will convince, but at that time, it's already very strange that even that kind of strange stuff, when a bad paper exists in science, people just ignore it. Albert Einstein is not going to spend all his time criticizing somebody. I don't have time to criticize people. I have time to work on the correct science. That's all I have. Okay? And then publish my science. If you have criticism, you correct me. I will change my mind. It's very simple. Those guys have a result that could never be incorrect or nothing wrong. Hockey team, he said that his hockey stick turned into a hockey team, all this nonsense, this guy. He's so disillusioned now. Just yesterday, I was very fed up with him. In terms of how bad the economy is. He was publishing, by the way, I'm a Michael Mann scholar, so you can consider me a professional scholar of Michael Mann. Because not only his scientific things are flawed, his personal level is very, very disgusting too. He was trying to promote Michael Mann attacking MSNBC, saying that they're not talking too much about the good news on the economy. I mean, can you be so crazy? Can you stop this kind of nonsense? Wake up, This is why no longer that he can really still have the conscience to support this nonsense of a hockey stick history, right? Everybody should know, right? Hockey stick temperature history at that time was 1,000 years, from 1080 to 1900. It's flat. It changed. Of course it changed, but it's tiny amount, 0.2 the most Celsius. Whereas the change could easily be about 1 degree even, right? Depends on the region. And the average one should be like 0.5 or even larger, okay? In terms of medieval warm period, little ice age, and that sort of extremes that we know. And he just say it's so tiny and then shoot up. It's a complete nonsense, actually, because you look everywhere in the map. So by 2000, by 2002, I actually worked very hard. So I sampled 400 or 500 of peer-reviewed literature, produced this big paper. I am not one of those who basically want to simplify things. I know what the problem is. Climate is a very complicated subject. Any fool who try to say that they understand climate, please come, right? I want to discuss climate with you because I really I want to push all the way. No, I discuss with Lindsay, Harper, whoever the scientist is, I talk to everybody, right? At that time, I know that the science of climatology is so weak. We don't understand a lot of things, right? We don't know how to connect from meteorology, certain wind pattern, or certain atmospheric mode, even if you include oceanic mode, it's another form of complication again. So we don't have the superposition rule, how to average them, right? Even taking a thermometer to average them to get a global temperature is a very serious scientific question. Why? Why do you want to do that? How? Okay, so many questions like that. So I published a very simplistic way of doing things, but that's what science is about, hoping for progress. By the way, one of the peer review of that paper was actually John Christie, right, from Alabama, Huntsville. He actually praised me for that work. He said, this is exactly what I want to do. And no one was publishing. At that time, I waited, by the way. Please, somebody do it. I don't want to do this. I don't want to get in trouble like that. So I published this, not because I'm afraid of my comment. It's just so much nonsense. You know what I mean? Why do I want to waste time answering questions like, are you paid by fossil fuel? All this stupid thing, I really, really don't like it. So I published the paper, but it's a very simpler way, just asking 3 simple questions. Is there a variable warm period? Is there a little ice age period? And then is 20th century warming exceptional? All right. So you can see I answered yes for variable warm period, yes for a little ice age, no for the 20th century exceptional warming. That's simple conclusion. By just assembling huge amount of this paleo data and taking the word of those authors for it, I never modify anything. And then, of course, when paper come out, all this sick science community have no guts. They attack me. Oh, Willie Soon, say something that my paper didn't say. Oh, yeah, really? I work so hard on everything, Tom. There's no words or any question mark or even a symbol missing from my paper. That's how crazy I am. I'm obsessed in that way. Because science is almost a perfection of life in some way. So they come and attack me like that because it's political, right? And then I asked them, there are few of them I named them, David Black, now at Stony Brook. I even met him. About 2006, I was giving a colloquium at Stony Brook University. We were having lunch. He was so nice. Forgotten about all these things that he said about me. Of course, I didn't press the issue. But during that time, I wrote to him. He said I misquote him. I quote one of his paper on Atlantic, ocean temperature, right? And it's really showing me the warm period, that sort of thing. And I really asked him, where is it that I say that is wrong? Here's your paper. Here's the quote. You say that. Oh, no, first of all, I asked him, are you withdrawing this statement? Is your data wrong? Tell me. They don't say nothing. Of course, it's correct, right? Many examples like that. This is how it's so easy for them to try to play this kind of game. But my God, only if I have a chance to speak. And I rarely get that kind of interview, as you can imagine. So many, many people like that. And then one guy, Daniel Schreck, big professor at Harvard Earth and Planetary Science Division, bad-mouthing me. I wrote to him, copying my division director. Quiet, so scared. Don't even answer. I don't know what's wrong with you. No cordial, no civility, no nothing. And then you attack people in public. Back then, I was doing a lot of that because I was still a young hotshot. By now, of course, I never reply to any stupid criticism. You know why? My life is full of beautiful stuff. I only want to hang around beautiful things. I want to do all the things, but I'm not delusional. If I have a mistake, I correct myself because I'm a man of God too. I don't have to lie. I don't have to cheat. I don't have to look beautiful. I just have to do the work. So hockey stick got into me so much trouble. If you guys hear one of my talk that I gave in at Hillsdale College, April of this year, there's a video somewhere, right? And I gave a talk. At least I finally think about it from 2001, 2003 until now, almost 20 years. I waited. I didn't make a statement when they attacked me. My work attacked me, Greenpeace, everybody. I finally do one talk that I thought that I would say everything I want to say. And that's all. It's 1 hour is enough. I pointed out enough. And there are a lot of details, obviously, right? I mean, all this stuff about email, they just have to remember I keep everything. So I have everything. Go ahead, right? You want to FOIA, all these things, let's fight. Because nothing but the truth, right? So get to that. Then about 2005, 2006, I was contacted by a guy from Nunavut. His name is Marcus Dyke. By the way, he died from helicopter crash. He's doing polar bear research. And he was asking me for help because he wanted some sea ice data around Hudson Bay. And I wanted to assess the issue of, this sea ice relationship with polar bear, then we get to the biology and then the nutritional needs. When we publish paper, we started assessing, that during summer, the polar bear come on shore and then they started taking berries and all that. Even eggs, they take eggs and then they eat, you observe their behavior, but they don't kill the chicks, right? That kind of thing. And clearly there are some nutritional supply except for the sale, right? You know what I mean? And they're all blaming on sale, and they don't want to talk about anything else. They don't want to talk that too much sea ice is a big problem for the polar bear, right? In fact, I think that the only puzzle about polar bear biology is that when there's a lot of sea ice, where do they find food? When it's very, very cold. Okay, right? That's the ultimate question, right? But they don't want to address that, right? They don't want to talk about any other thing, but they just want to attack you. So Marcus Dyke and me wrote a paper. In 2007, we published it. Oh my God, the pain of that one is very painful. Again, I told you my pain of life is basically, well, put it this way, I should put a positive spin on this, the joy of life. It's about learning because I have to get into so many different topics. Do you think I really want to learn about polar bear biology? But I have to. I force myself to read up literature, see what's the best scientists and talk to them and try to learn something, that sort of thing. Even in paleo, it's not my natural area, isn't it? Right? I was studying sun-like stars activities and that sort of thing, radiative transfer, all kinds of stuff like that. So did all of that. I even created climate model, as I told you. You think these people talk about climate model? You don't think that none of us know how to play with climate model? You must be joking, huh? You think that you are this little robot that you can run computer program and we don't know? These people are so outrageous in terms of their standard. They have no standard. The only standard they have is basically cheating and lying, basically. I just got very turned off by that sort of behavior. And then showing off in public. Oh, I'm so smart. I am director of this and that. Garvin Schmidt has already destroyed Willie Soon. Oh, his work is nothing. Don't look at him. If you're so afraid, none of you want to debate me. None of you want to come and talk to us. Of course, I have another problem. In 2009, I organized a scientific session at the American Geophysical Union, which is the gathering of the largest geoscientists in the world, right? 30, 40,000 people, membership. But at that kind of meeting, it's close to 20,000 people. That's a lot. And they canceled me. They first approved me and then they canceled me. That sort of thing. So you can imagine how many problems already, right? Then you got into the problem in 2009, as you know. ClimateGate came along. You are among one of the leaders in terms of providing all the email for us to read and that sort of thing. And guess what happened? Greenpeace submit a Freedom of Information Act demanding to see all my emails and all that stuff. Obviously, I resisted. But unfortunately, my workplace was not very friendly to me. In the beginning, my division director was trying to promote me as the guy who studied this thing very deeply. Not only the sun, sun-like stars, stellar physics, and then studying the Earth climate very carefully, right? So I was making a lot of progress. You can see my publication record, obviously. Although most people don't read it now because of a lot of this negative thing associated with me. Because if he's so stupid, why do you want to read him, right? He have nothing good to say. You know what I mean? It's basically I write red rum every day, you know what I mean on Shining. These people do not want to engage me. So I got into that kind of trouble. Then Greenpeace is very smart, 2009. And I resisted for a short time. I have like 40 of my friends, including Karen Mullis, Nobel Prize winner, that sort of thing. And write letter to my director, tell them to not release this email. It's not because of only Willie Soon. You're setting a precedence. Do you understand? Everything I do is for the love of science, and these people don't even see it. Why do I care? I look like I'm just a normal person. I told you one thing that's very clear about me is that I don't want to pretend like I turn around, I become somebody else. You know what I mean? Talk to you like this, and then the next minute I go cheat or actually go drink gasoline. You know what I mean? Drink gasoline. I'm the oil man. So, they try to persuade the director not to release the email. Not because I had nothing to hide, by the way. So it's a very strange kind of thing. You can see the Greenpeace excuse was that because climate gate will reveal, whatever the reason is, we can discuss that. But they say because that will release, they have to see my email. That's the only reason they provide. That's the reason, okay? Where there's no cause to suspect me of any wrongdoing or whatever it is, right? And then it went on and on and on and on until the 2015. They waited. They are very smart. They released a few times. Greenpeace guy. They were, when they have the email, they thought they got me. Hey man, I got something on his balls. Man, he's gonna die. After this. But I was just doing publishing, even more paper, working all kinds of problems. And then occasionally they release something, right? They release something in Boston Globe. And then when they release something, I remember it's about 2011 or something, right? And then when they released, one of the Boston Globe reporter was so excited. He was following me around. He was following when I was doing gigs for Harvard Institute, that kind of stuff here and there, right? People ask me to do things. By the way, in all of this thing, they keep saying that I got paid. I don't get paid for nothing. All I did is that, please, somebody have to cover my travel expense and list the hotel, right? That's it. Sometimes Heartland, they don't pay for food, so you pay for your own food, right? I mean, let's go down to detail. What do you want? I mean, it's ridiculous. I like the fun stuff that Vincent was explaining to you. I saw one of the interview where they were accusing him of being a fossil fuel kind of industry spokesperson. He said, yeah, I was kind of broke, and I was writing this article for one of the things. It turns out that fossil fuel company paid, and he got paid $500, whatever it is. And then, Professor Richard Linson, do you guys know how smart the guy is? The guy is truly smart. He's the youngest. You may not know this. He's the youngest ever elected to the National Academy of Science. Now, the National Academy of Science is junk, right? Now you have Michael Mann in, totally stained the whole damn place, Sting, in fact, it smells so bad. National Academy of Science want Willie Soon to be there. I said, no, I do not want to join that kind of membership. Thank you very much. Okay, I just stick to science, and you don't represent me. You don't represent science. Go away. I don't care whether it's Lincoln, this or that. You guys are just an embarrassment to science. You see, I say that very seriously on that one, joking aside, because you know what? They don't stand for science at all. They did nothing for science. So I wanted to say that the National Academy of Science is a disgrace to science itself. They don't protect science. They don't protect anything. All they do is giving more prestigious and name, just like Nobel Prizes, right? It's like a joke nowadays. You know what I mean? And to try to give a Nobel Prize to the scientists claiming that because the climate model is so good, it's a joke. Such a disgrace. It's such a bad thing for physics, But we know it's political in a lot of ways. But there are some really serious good science. That's why I'm still like still cannot separate, because I still think that the only way for science to come back is scientists themselves speak out and take it back, because no amount of politician, no amount of organization can help us. This is why I can tell you about my new approach in terms of trying to fight this climate science business, is to basically do more work that is much more neutral. Everybody's calm with their words, write a proper thing, what we call adversarial collaboration. So I hope you will interview Ronan so he can explain. Ronan Connolly, my good friend that we work together.
He's on my list. Yep, he's booked already.
Yep. Good. So what other problem now? So then, have this Greenpeace stuff investigated by 3 police. I was very lucky because, again, for being truthful, being honest, being hardworking, I have no money. So I actually was able to get a pro bono lawyer, right? They helped defend me from 2009 until like 2022. That's 11 years of relationship. I have no money to pay them, obviously. But they helped me. They really helped me to fight against my institution, who constantly trying to give me problems for things that I didn't do anything. All my research grant, everything go through the center. And they are the one that took the overhead money and that sort of thing. It had nothing to do with me. And yet they want to make it look like I'm that devil. Oh yeah, are you kidding me? It's Willie Soon who's running Harvard University Press and that kind of thing. Michael Mann was accusing me for corrupting the Harvard University Press media office, because when we did some of those work, this hockey stick work, actually it got mentioned. The newspaper come and interview me and Sally Barunas, my colleague. So we got a front page, that kind of, just an article mentioning a work that we do that is actually countervailing. So it's newsworthy. Even that, what is so controversial by saying that medieval warm period exists? And then not only that, show you the evidence. Michael Mann got nothing. It's just a mathematical algorithm that removed this hockey stick. No wonder nobody believe you. Do you even understand that? It's not about, this and that, all this stuff. It's about, where's the data? Show me, dude. You show me, okay, I changed my mind. You know what I'm saying? And talking nonsense. Every day is about narrative. Then he turned his narrative saying that it's a medieval warm period only in Europe, nowhere else. Excuse me. What about the Song dynasty? What about the Cambodia where they built Angkor Wat? South America. So many evidence like that. He ignored, he swept under the rug. Because you know why? He is Michael Mann. Therefore, the whole world have to believe him. This is how crazy this whole thing, isn't it? And we're still talking about it. It's such an embarrassment, actually. And no wonder Linson and Harper, the senior scientists, already aware that, in the future, the science historian have a field day by looking back at this period. You know what I mean? What kind of world did we live in at that time, right?
Yes. Yep.
Nobel Prizes, National Academy of Science, what have you. The White House and all kinds of things bought into this scam, this delusion. And no one wants to speak about science. All they do is get Facebook, get Twitter, get all of this to censor people. Wow, soon your YouTube will be, I don't want to say that, but they would do things like this. But I'm glad you're on Rumble, you've got all kinds of platforms. That's the thing that we need to do to survive. Not to survive, really mainly to share. So I appreciate you for doing that, right? I remember meeting you one night in Minnesota or something when I was giving a talk. There was some protest. We want to protest, you know what I'm saying? But it was always, I take it with a bit of a, jovial spirit, so what, you have something to say, come on and say something, please, man, knock yourself out, what you got? I'm just trying to do science, can you just stop when I'm speaking, don't interrupt people, don't try to disrupt, that kind of thing. By the way, after Minnesota, I went to Wisconsin, Madison, that, I don't know if you remember, that was 2010 or 2012.
I do, yeah.
And University of Madison, Wisconsin, you know what they did? There were a lot of them. Oh, I was happy. Oh, how come so many people show up? they were smart enough. They let you speak for 5 minutes and then they all stand up and disrupt. That's the strategy, right? I have many incidents like that, but I'm just trying to tell you, what are they so afraid, right? They sit there and then disrupt. One person, you take down, then the next one sit up, that kind of thing. So it went on for 30 minutes so you couldn't give your talk. That's the way they do it. I just say, can you just wait? It's okay, stay, please don't go away, stay. Let me finish and then you talk, okay? Is that all right? Let's do that. Don't do all this crazy stuff. If you want to fight, I'm also okay, I'm pretty much a straight guy, you want to do that, that's fine. But later, like a bar fight, I'm good, let's go. But the problem with these people is not about anything else. They're so afraid of information. So I get into a lot of problems like this that I hate the most. Ultimately, my pursuit is to study the science. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's it. But ultimately, I think I stumble upon many, many interesting aspects of climate change that I really like very much, which I can perhaps take some minutes to explain my viewpoint on how climate change. I really think that is, at first, by the way, I entertain every other people's work. That's part of the labor of love that you do. If others have idea, like Swan Smart have this cosmic ray, galactic cosmic ray, cosmic crowd, that kind of stuff. I was a big fan of that in 96 and 97. By 98, I'm no longer convinced that is correct because I consulted the satellite data, the people that do the ISCIP, the International Space Satellite Cloud Climatology Project, ISCCP. Bill Russell was in charge of that. But I contacted the people who are in charge of the data set. It turns out that SwanSmart, they were shifting the data. It's not right. I don't like those things. And not documented well. And then plus that the data set failed, after a while. So the empirical basis to start this whole idea was not even there. That's why by 2000, I was already publishing paper. Most people won't know that, right? They thought I'm such a fool. Whatever the sun climate, I'll just jump into the pool with people. No. I'm an independent thinker. I hope everybody should be also independent. From me, you only can trust the science when the science is true, right? So I work on a different paradigm, which is basically sunlight, right? And then I realized, sunlight, what does that mean? That means that you need to know the sun-Earth orbital condition correctly, right? Everybody thought that problem is trivial, has been solved. Indeed, a large chunk of the problem has been solved. But the last time it was solved, was published, truly, honestly was published, was in 1978 by Professor André Berger from Louvain, okay? Where he tried to take the orbital solution, tried to calculate the orbital solution, but at that time, probably lack of computer in the 70s, you can imagine, they were doing long-term perturbation of the orbit from all these other planets. And those orbits perturbation are only valid for every 1,000 or every 5,000 years. What does that say? That says that that solution have no modulation on anything else. The short-term, in fact, it doesn't even have Moon and the Earth separate as a separate body because it treats as one center of mass system. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I had to revisit this problem because I realized that long ago, that something is wrong with the way that they're doing this. So by 2012, I found a paper, a good guy by the name of Rodolfo Gustavo Cionso from Argentina, a true talent. So I started to engage him, we start working, so we started to produce a solution. But for a very short time scale, so we cover the Holocene, right? But we are including everything. We have, basically the sun and the moon and the Earth is separate. So you at least will have the lunar signature. Remember, moon is very important too in the system. And then you can calculate all this perturbation on basically days to multi-decade to century. Then we have the full solution. Remember, climate system is very complicated. We don't know that whether it's the persistency of the forcing that causes this, because all this nonsense about energetics and feedback and all that, by the way, is a full distraction. I was caught into that framework early on, also the same like everybody else, because everybody want to treat that the sun seasonal cycle is not important. But if you think about it, we have never had any energetic problem. All the energy of the climate system is supplied by the sun, period. That's it. Solved. There's no energetic problem. Do you understand? So people say you need amplification, you need feedback, all this concept that's useful to teach students, but it's not really real. This is why I think it's more fun for you to talk to Joe Bastari, who's really so good in terms of understanding things, in terms of how weather systems work. And so I had to get into orbital dynamics, have the full solution. We have it for the full solution. So we really find that the whole thing is very rich, the dynamics. So I'm yet to work out the full problem, right? But just to tell you, that's the step I took. I have to do the orbital solution now. So ultimately, I think that the whole climate system evolved is basically the seasonal modulation. All this stuff that you saw in the thermometer data where they subtracted the mean, the anomaly, is basically whether it's seasonal, like basically from winter to winter or summer to summer, or the inter-transition, inter-seasonal stuff, right, that you're seeing. But it's on top of this big energetic, the system, basically. But you have to study the whole thing. No wonder the sun is very, very powerful, just the sunlight. That's why you don't need this cosmic ray, all this other false excuse, really. Plus that the physics is not plausible. Formation of cloud doesn't determine by microphysics. That's the problem. That's a fundamental statement, right? Because cloud formation is on large scale, Of course, cloud on a patch of sky like this, yeah, maybe. Because we're talking about nano-sized particle, right? We're not talking about things that is large scale that depends on flow. Inversion is a phenomenon. Inversion means that temperature is warm or cold up there. So you have an inversion in terms of that system. Cloud require downdraft, right? Low cloud formation, strong downdraft from top to bottom so that all the water got trapped, right? That's basically a large scale feature that had no chance for the microphysics to prevail, really. So it's a very mysterious. That's the kind of thing. I analyze things to the detail and publish and find empirical evidence to explain all of that. So I did that in 2000. So I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm working on other problems because I don't want to work on problems or spending time criticizing people. I try to engage Transmark, but they don't believe in it. They don't want to listen. They don't want to talk. They just want to do what they're doing. Fine. I'm okay. I still like the guy very much. I really admire him for fighting so hard, that sort of thing. But that's beside the point. Science is not about your friend. It's not about your husband, wife, or whatever it is. It's about evidence. Work on that problem. So I'm onto that journey now. Okay, we're onto the journey of orbitals. Then I think I finally got pieces of the puzzle. Then, just like yesterday, I give this presentation for the World Historian Society. And I kind of always puzzle, when people, by the way, there are all kinds of science, obviously. People love to focus on one area. It's not because I want to study so many complication stuff, but the point is that if you don't understand all these different knobs, you will never understand anything. I don't even understand why you want to study volcanic eruption when you don't want to understand where the volcanic eruption come from, right? I don't understand why you study earthquake or you want to predict earthquake, but you don't know how earthquake came from, right? So that lead me to this paradigm that I'm studying, that basically that involve not only the intrinsic sun, but the orbital perturbation, because all these different planets are forcing the sun to also revolve around. And then it possibly could connect to how it affects the sun intrinsic property, the magnetism. And then because of that, you actually were able to find that there are stuff between the sun and the earth that does depend on the relative distance of the sun and earth. Okay, I bet a lot of people don't know about this, but I want to say this. If you take the volcanic eruption catalog from the Smithsonian, which is the most important archive, comprehensive, has everything, the last 1700 until now, right? Let's say you cover about 300 years or more, right? 320. And then you ask your very simple question. Just categorize all the eruption by the month. What do you get?
No idea.
You actually get a seasonal cycle. That's the one that I impressed Joe by study, because he's a statistic geek. You say, how come you pull out that one? Yeah, you never see it, Joe? Yeah. Okay, well, that's called a bit of insight, because I want to know. That's all, right? Not only that, later I found, once I had that vision, right? When I had that vision of volcanic behaving like that, then it's not difficult to find. You may know Argo satellite. Early on of Argo project, although they go down to only 2,000 meters, there's one Japanese group that found that in the middle of the Pacific, equatorial Pacific, you want to know that down in 2,000 meters what the temperature look like is seasonal. How the heck does the season go in there? Tell me, there's no coastal processes possible to influence that? There's nothing. The only explanation is basically that. And then just 2 weeks ago, there was a paper come from what you call Arabian Peninsula, okay, off the thing. This time they have actual things that go down. They were able to go down 4,500 meters. Guess what? They saw that. Another seasonal property in that. No, this is not, it's not trivial. You have to look for where the data is. And then earthquake, deep earthquake, anything that below 500 kilometers. One group from Caltech was able to show there are seasonal annual, semi-annual cycle. In Himalayas, you can see it all depends on hydrology, loading and unloading, on seasonal time scale, my friend. So that gave me a good hint. This is why I'm starting on this journey, that basically, if you notice, all the cool period have volcanic eruption. And they all probably related to the sun weakening, like the Maunder minimum, the Daughter minimum, the Sporer minimum. During that time, you have more volcanic eruption. Okay, it's somehow tied on a large scale and small scale and all this seasonal scale. That's why my ultimate goal now is to understand it that way, to produce this kind of work that we can really understand, and then without invoking model. And lately, which I think you please interview Ronan Connolly on this. In fact, you can interview his father too if you have more space. Michael Connolly, the guy who behind this project. They are the one that guide me into this. Again, this is what you call joy of life, right? As a scientist. You meet people, sometimes you ignore them because some people are too ambitious, they don't know what they're talking about. But these two guys are real geniuses that I've ever met. I mean, Joe Bastadi is one, but Roland Connolly and Michael Connolly are truly, truly good. They are PhD trained chemists. You call them amateur all you want, or you can call Willie Soon amateur. I have no degree in climate science, big deal, right? But I've been studying that for 32 years. Just remember, okay? I can tell you stuff that a lot of the textbook that is not even correct, okay? Because they don't care. They want to have textbook, they want to invoke idol, gold medal, that sort of thing, that you hang on your medal, you got a big medal. Okay, I got a big medal, so I'm smart, right? You don't need things like that. You just need to study. But the thing that we are embarking on now that's very interesting is we study all the balloon data, the balloon radio song that's been used essentially for weather forecasting kind of business to initialize the system probably. Actually, I still don't know what they're using the balloon data for, right? But apparently there's enough of the data that you can really study a lot of interesting things. From there, I mean, it's so rich. The latest paper that we are going to work on now is really interesting. We're trying to find out what is actually the meaning of tropopause, right? The transition between troposphere and stratosphere. In between that, what happened there? It's very, very dynamical. In fact, we found out that they put up a lot of ozone sonde that sample the data in high resolution. Oh my God, in meteorological sense, it's very interesting. There's a lot of variations that is systematic and that sort of thing. And we think that we can even see some annual cycle in a lot of this the tropopause changes over time. Okay? Changes over time is modulated on that. It's really, really interesting to try to get more information. In the sense that, the north and the south, polar, Greenland and South Pole, you can imagine that they have to be anti-phase, but they are facing together. Okay? Isn't that interesting? That tells you more related to the Sun-Earth distance than actually the direct, what you call radiation projection, right? And that kind of problem. So it's so rich, but the problem is that everything must start not from a theory. Everything must start from the empirical evidence, right? You have to start from that principle, and then you can really lead to something truthful and real. I believe I'm on the right path. Another interesting thing that we're working on now is basically, after all these 30 years of working, after 30 years of trying to look at the temperature data that everybody accepted, okay, and then not challenging them, something is wrong. Anthony Watt, they're crazy. Steve McIntyre, they're crazy. They know this, know that. Tony Heller, that kind of thing. Tony is the number one guy who keeps showing that they're cheating. They're adjusting. And what did they do? By the way, so we systematically work on this problem now. We already have 5 papers on this. One of the most exciting one that we published was the beginning of this year with a whole group of European Meteorological Center people. That's what I mean by the example of what you call adversarial collaboration. We don't have to agree on everything, but we need some information from you. So we ask them for their metadata, basically the station, the history. When do you move this somewhere, or you change the measurement, the thermometer or the casing and that sort of thing. So they provide us that information. And then we look at all the GACN data supplied by NOAA, and then look at the raw data versus the one that they produce, already processed by using the homogenization algorithm. That's the one that I think is going to essentially, it's a very sad thing for them, really. Our interest is not to, poke hole into this and people job and that kind of thing. But the point is that they're not doing their job, right? They're producing your temperature product that have no quality control. And then they keep insisting. The thing that I don't like about these people is that they become dogmatic, they get aggressive, they start attacking people. They start making statements that, homogenization algorithm, we don't even need the station history anymore. We just show them. We just publish this paper, please. I mean, if I can tell people to read those papers or go to series.science.com, right? The new stuff that we at least put sometime occasionally we write some word explaining what we have done. We found that, if you check that with the algorithm versus the actual data, they are right only 10, 20% of the time. I mean, 80% of the time they're completely wrong because they just adjust, which in all these adjustments are artificial. have no correspondence to reality. I mean, that's pretty bad, okay? And even that, you think that they're going to step down? They're not. That's the problem. These days, things are so bad now. I think it takes a big revolution. I don't know what the revolution will be, but certainly that this will be the first time most of your audience heard of this sort of thing, that we actually have published the paper. We're not only talking, we're not only producing video, we actually publish paper with all these meteorologist center people who supply the data. So again, oh, by the way, if the NOAA people, if they are so smart and all this thing, please come and point out what's wrong with the paper. Come on, tell us. My comment, Gavin speed. I mean, they are producing their own data space, right? The temperature data from Gavin. Gavin, by the way, every time they do this, one more hero that I have to mention. I really have to give credit to a lot of people. A lot of these I happen to be lucky at the right place at the right time. So hey, can I look? Can I look? So I look. You know what I mean? I'm inviting myself to all kinds of science problems. Okay, but one of the hero in this study of the thermometer station was a retired professor from Trinity, Dublin. His name is Peter O'Neill. Yeah, he's the first author of this paper. We have to give him the first authorship because he's so brilliant in the sense that a lot of insight. It's one of those who don't like to talk. Please don't give him interview, right? But he retired, he have a lot of time, and he's interested in one station, okay, Valencia, in Ireland. But to keep one station, you need the whole GSCN data, right? So every time they update, or from Gavin, they are not doing any original work. Nasakis, they just take from NOAA and then they do their own spin. Not much of a processing, right? And then they run their the homogenization algorithm, and then computer space. This day, right? It's unlimited things that we can keep. So they throw that away. And you know what Peter O'Neill did? he kept like 2,000-3,000 versions of this since about 2000, I don't know, 2009, 2010 or something. He started. Do you understand what I mean?
I do.
we found. I mean, you haven't seen nothing yet. All I'm trying to tell you just to share some excitement. No, again, laughing aside, it's trying to make sure that things are right. Because every time you change, we wrote in our paper, we pick one station from Czech Republic just to remain neutral. You can pick US, you can pick anything you want, or we pick one of the stations in Czech Republic. I mean, the version you got from Tuesday will be different from the version you got on Friday. Holy cow. These people are in serious trouble. I don't allow them to change. If it's a true science, it cannot change, isn't it? I don't care what your algorithm is. Stop this nonsense. You either come out with something more clever than to tell us that you can rely on this algorithm and your result is quality control and you are correct. I mean, this is what they're selling us. And then you have IPCC, National Academy of Science, US Global Change Research, EPA, all these other people. NOAA. Every single one of them, we funded them. And they're playing game like this, not doing their work. Not only that, they obviously don't like us. Oh, start examining now. Where the hell they get their money from? Oh, they're so corrupted, this and that. I really hope that people will start donating to my seriousscience.com. I mean, please give us $100, $20, $10. I appreciate it. Because everything I need, I use it in a good way like this. I buy computer, I buy paper, feed my kid. Who knows, right? The kids still need to eat hamburger. Nothing you can do about that. But if I don't have to do this, I'll go work somewhere. I'm so fed up. You don't want to live your life like this, permanently under this terrorism of these people. It's a bit like a technocrats. We are the expert. We are the, whatever. I mean, one day I can function normally. The next day they remove your credit card or PayPal system, this and that. Oh, man, please. I cannot live like this. I mean, I don't believe that. That's what I'm saying. They are the minority. We are the majority. That's why I always say, if science were to be not under this kind of a nonsense, this climate science, I guarantee you, because every of those scientists, when I was active going to conference, I stopped going to their kind of conference because you know why? It's really hard. It's all about, Michael Mann did such a great work, Gavin. It's all that nonsense. You really want to puke, literally want to puke. I mean, these are the worst criminals that you can find. And they are being held as some kind of hero. Oh, they're so sacrificed. Oh, people are trying to threaten their kids. trying to give them a death threat. You know that threat, we got that threat. You want we got all kinds of nonsense for doing science. You know, I mean, it's just not right, you know, when you keep doing that route. Because the point is that, believe me, ultimately for me, the joy is still to understand something and do something. But of course, I don't really care how people look at me. I am myself. I know I don't do cheat. I don't lie. I'm only interested in science. What else you want from me, right? You can threaten me all you want. Although sometimes it's worrisome when they threaten, they want to shoot you, they want to do something to you. It's very worrisome. But you know, I'm a man of peace. I don't want violence. I don't want anything. I just want to do science. But you cannot possibly go on like this. The science they produce is not only third rate, it's very bad rate. It's really bad. You know what I mean? Bad stuff. And they're not willing to correct themselves. Even when we are able to show them, I don't know if you know that in 2021, last year, we produced a very good review paper. I don't say it's definitive, but it's the best one ever come out, right? We have about 14 authors, and now it's downloaded about, let me see how many thousand times. It's been downloaded by 34,600 times. It's really good for a paper like that. And the point of the paper was to say that if you want to study sun-climate connection, you have to be careful what solar metric you use. So, for example, we use total solar irradiance, right? Ultimately, that's important. And then, in terms of the thermometer temperature record, you have to be careful what you use. Do you use what IPCC? By the way, we show all their results. We show all the stuff. And then we also say that maybe we should consider this other set, which is to say that you take data station that is not in the urban area, not contaminated, that sort of thing. Take the rural, because we at least have a rating control from satellite images and stuff like that. Peter O'Neill, of course, is a master in doing that. You know, my friend in Dublin. So we work on things like this and provide an alternative record. Actually, it's very different. I kind of more believe in that, but again, because of openness, I want to say that we have to produce both. They keep saying that we don't know what we're doing, but whatever IPCC produce, NOAA produce, GIS produce, Japan Meteorological Agency, you have it. Anything you want. We do exactly the same like that. We can produce. Therefore, we know what is in the sausage, right? It was basically a blend of nonsense. Apple, oranges, banana, all kinds of stuff. And then you call it mixed fruit. Here, we produce, and then we provide the contrast. The contrast that you take rural station. Tom Peterson and a bunch of those people make attempt before. Again, is that I really need to check their work. They claim that they have done that and then they see no different. You understand what I mean? There's a lot of things like that, puzzle in science. That ultimately that, you know what, I'm not afraid. I'll show you what I got. Now you got to show me what you did. The one that they claim that they have done the rural station and still look like this. I don't believe that, because when I did, I see different. You understand? I see it like this. So show me what you got, or point out what I did wrong. So leave it at that, because you know why? Science, nobody can be 100% of anything, right? We know about something as high as 99.999. You know what I'm saying? That I know that we did this okay, right? So therefore, please don't tell me that you know all this stuff and it can only be fit by CO2. So when we make those statements that, you know, it's actually, it's still open. I mean, obviously they won't accept that. And then they start attacking us, obviously. Again, the whole thing is always the same attack. I'm so tired of that. But of course, I'm not hiding anymore, right? I'm not afraid of any of this, so I'll just do what I do. I just keep publishing paper.
I do have a burning question here. What do you think, what's your top hypothesis? What caused the warming since 1975? What percent of that was caused by human CO2? And do you have an idea what the mechanism was that caused that warming naturally?
I think it's all natural. I think large percentage, 99% is all natural. Because so far, I don't think we can find, this CO2 stuff is a delusion. It's pure delusion. You cannot find any signature of that. You cannot find any signature of that. And for example, the volcano in Pinatubo probably would do something, right? So, but that's, again, everybody say, I don't know. They keep saying, but I don't believe in them. Like, it's only 1 year, 2 years effect, right? But I don't know, okay? But the point is that from 75, since the Pacific decadal shift, right? The shift in 76 is well known. Every temperature record show that in Alaska, you clearly see those things, right? And that also tell you another aspect of climate change. It doesn't change by just gradual. It's shifted because it's about transition between modes, low and strong modes. So it shows you again, the system don't just do what you always think that it's doing, right? And maybe it's seasonality shift, that kind of stuff. But I believe large part of it is natural. Large part of it is following the behavior of what the sun is doing. Okay. It can be, remember, any of this system doesn't have to correspond one-to-one instantaneously on time. This is part of the most misleading thing about sun climate. Every time they say, because it doesn't fit. No. And they use the wrong curve. For example, one of the obvious one is always that they use sunspot. Of all things to use, you should never ever use sunspot to study sun climate connection. You should at least use something like a irradiance or something more related, because sunspot number, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a number. It's a metric that is not physical unit. It's not a watt per meter square. That's not a thing. Occasionally, they still try to invoke that this day because they have support from a lot of this solar community that is actually trying to say that the sun is not important, cannot be important, that sort of thing. You can see the whole bunch of controversy. By the way, we recorded all of that in our paper. We put them all down. And that kind of paper, I think that sometimes is helpful in the sense that for people who still not convinced, still, if there are people that are still neutral in one way or another, you should really read some of our paper, because we are very careful, we detail, we're honest, we tell both sides. We're not going to do like what IPCC nonsense is doing. Give you one more example. Oh, people will say IPCC was so comprehensive. That's one of the common statements. They're so comprehensive. They got thousands and thousands of these. They cited millions and millions of papers, right? Okay. But when it comes down to sun climate, Ronan Connolly can give you the statistic. He went through the pain of examining the AR6 report. Working group 1, obviously, we're not going to deal with all this other stuff, which is the physical sciences. Look for the topic of sun climate, right? And then the claim is, of course, urbanization is not important, like on the thermometer. That's another claim that they love to say. They say they actually are so, because politically they're so weak now, they have to put in a lot of these buzzwords so they can debunk you. They actually, in AR6, I don't know how many people realize, they say that the urbanization effect on temperature record could be at most, they even quantify at most 10%. So it's a tiny thing, so you can ignore, go to sleep, it's okay. What a nonsense. How about 100%? Okay? It's open until now, still possible. And you guys are just playing game, right? So we examine that and see how many papers they cited. Okay? Remember, it's IPCC, okay? Versus a paper that we produce. I hope you can point people to that paper that we write in Research in Astronomy and Astrophysics. We published this paper about, 40, 50 pages. We cited 536 references. We compare our references on this topic versus them. Yeah, who has the more references? Obviously, we won. Ronan went through the pain of doing that because the reviewer, right, all this nonsense peer review, who want to reject the paper without reading, without knowing, without anything. So we quickly rebunked them, and really in the sense that it's an embarrassment for those idiots who keep talking. They love to talk. They love to invoke their authority, but they never want to do the hard work. It is a hard work. I told Ronan, come on, I don't want to do that. Ronan is a hard worker. He go and do all of that. Oh my God. Again, it could be come out that they are correct, by the way. By all means, right? It is true, isn't it? I don't have any preconceived notion. But it come out that it's really bad. They don't cite even a proper paper like that. We look through their references, all their references, thousands and thousands of them. It turns out that we have more citation than them, because it tells you that the claim that they are most citing, the most recent, the most updated research is complete nonsense, right? And you may know Donna Lafamboise from Canada have done that kind of project before. You know what I mean? By doing all this. Found out that a lot of these theses are neither peer review, that sort of thing, PhD thesis, that sort of stuff. That is just another level of good journalism that is required. But unfortunately, things are so fractionalized. Right? You know what I mean? People want to divide us into black and white. I think it's a very, very, very tragic situation. We don't want to get involved with that, Tom. My advice is that, you know what? we tell them that where's the science? I know you did that all the time. You make them upset. Really, I mean, how can you argue with people who say that, like today what they did, right? They throw tomato sauce, right? They think that they're Andy Warhol or something, holding the tomato can. Andy Warhol, they're throwing the thing at the painting, the Van Gogh painting. This is disgusting. I ask ourselves, in fact, I said the same, how long must we keep taking this crap from these people, Their parents should really take this kid and beat the crap out of them. Just come on, man, stop doing that. I mean, that one girl that was there, it turns out that she already did that many times. They let her out of jail, same thing, Yeah, same old stuff. The system is crazy.
I do have one final technical question here, and both Brian Catt and Joe Bastardi are talking about underwater volcanoes as being a major source of heat in the ocean. Do you have any comment on that either way?
Oh yeah, of course, it's all connected.
Yeah,
it's all connected. In fact, that's my first lead into that solar tectonic magmatic kind of situation, was because based on the work that was doing the glacial interglacial timescale. It's by a name that is very famous. I think she's related to the real Tolstoy, Maria Tolstoy from Colombia. She was studying the mid-ocean reaches. Yeah. Oh, Joe Bastardi, I compliment him. Last week, he produced a beautiful map of the Western Pacific. It's the sea surface temperature is warming up. And it's right at the Pacific Rim. Exactly. Right, exactly. But a lot of the mid-ocean reaches is all in the middle or two. So you gotta see consistency, right? That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of things going on. That's true. And clearly the sea surface temperature, more. That's what I'm saying. Those ultimately has to be tied into this framework that I'm doing, by the way, right? It has to be. Okay. Yes, of course. I'm looking at every data possible. Yes, that's one of them. No other comment except to say that, you can possibly figure all this out in one shot, isn't it? And then even if you figure out, you really need to explain, especially on the aspect. People are trying to argue about the aspect of the CO2. It's very hard to imagine the CO2 will bubble out so easily, right? Especially the CO2 part. I think Brian Catt may have talked about CO2 stuff too, about budget, But it's hard to figure that one out. But there is no doubt. By the way, you know what all of that is related? It's really not related to the sunlight. It's related to the relative distance. That's why the volcano can do things like this. That's why I believe the tectonics, some of the deep tectonics, in fact, the surface layer don't get pulled like that. It's the deep, feel more the gravitational sloshing, essentially, right? So you have to work out the physics. You cannot just say gravitational sloshing is all nonsense, basically, right? Now I'm waving a little bit because I'm telling you, I'm trying to figure out the full mechanism, like the way that my friend Sionso and I try to figure out how the different planets could affect the operation of the solar dynamo, which is actually at the tectonic layer between the convection zone. The sun is like a layer of onion, right? You have convection zone, you have radiative zone, and then you have the core where the thermonuclear reaction is. But the dynamo for the sun operate between the transition. It's called tectonic, right there. We are trying to figure out how the gravitational perturbation can affect basically a parameter called is a helical flow called the alpha parameter. Okay, helicity, which is one of the most important things for magnetism, really. And it can affect that small scale behavior, gravitational, so modulate that. So provide them basically a quasi-regular, like the Jupiter time period, 11.686 years, right? Kind of thing. So that it can modulate and then affect the dynamo property. So we try to put that in so that we see that, with all these orbits, we can produce a lot of all these minima that observed from carbon-14, right? Like 1,000 years, 2,000 years, we can see all of those things. Yeah, ultimately, it is that kind of framework that's going to be able to give us a full comprehensive understanding. And please remember, this whole work is just to understand what the climate do. I think that the whole problem about CO2, unfortunately, I don't know what would it take. In fact, people keep saying, oh yeah, another topic that is very hot that everybody wants to work on is that I think some people get too zealous, to try to say, oh, sure, IPCC and many of these global carbon budget people interpret that it is only the fossil fuel that causes the increase in the atmosphere, CO2. That is a controversial subject. Do you think that I don't think about that? Yes, sir, I think about that. It is a hot topic. We provided a review. We put 4 paradigms, actually. We provided a paper already, talk about things like this. And then that is a subject that I think if I have more time, I actually are trying to assign that to another person that I try to get him to work with us on series that science. So anybody donate, as you can see, we try to get talent to work on problem like that. And at series.science, that science, we even work on papers on COVID-19 too now, right? On epidemiology and things like that. Because in the past, I also, when I was bored with the Microman hockey stick, I was working on mercury problem. You know, mercury from a coal power plant, they say can cause the pregnant woman to have babies that is low IQ, that sort of thing. I work on all kinds of environmental issues as well, air pollution, that kind of thing, Clean Water Act. So again, it's because of this kind of curiosity. But the problem, the sad thing is that every time I look into all of this, it's so much evil things happen. I really find that we're not only not getting half truth, we're getting mostly lies from a lot of this environmental group that's supposed to be passionate, trying to provide clean water, clean air, healthy people, and all. It's all crazy. I mean, all of them turn into a big organization like Greenpeace, right? Patrick Moore can tell you that story, right? They turn into an unethical group. They basically got lost. Only the narrative that they allow. Air pollution, it's that in America, we don't have an air pollution problem in some sense. Yeah, there's some pollution here and there. Yeah, the one that EPA released the sludge into the Colorado River. Thank you very much. Who's going to jail on that? So now you want to blame it on the industry too? You cannot keep doing that kind of nonsense. This world now is so flipped upside down. I'm not an industry spokesperson, by the way, right? But the problem is, why you guys keep punishing people for doing nothing, right? I don't like that at all. If it's true, it's true. The point is that I tried to give you an example. I looked into all of this topic. I couldn't find anything that can support this narrative from the thing, like mercury going to cause baby to have low IQ. Nonsense, these people. And then therefore they have EPA coming in. The EPA is going crazy. So I'm going to give a talk at University of Chicago Law School in November 18 on this topic about EPA, dealing with the problem of climate change, mercury, and then the all this Clean Air Act, basically the nitrous oxide, all this other problem. I can tell you, this tree, I would not speak if I didn't check into that very carefully. I really know enough. I found so many things that something is wrong. In the third world, yes, their air is dirty. In fact, they have no rule and regulation in China. I mean, we are having a problem that we are a bit clean already. I don't know. The question now is that how clean is the question, right? You're dealing with a chemophobia world that we measure things down in part per million is already seriously problem. Billion, trillion now, right? You know, they detect mercury down to that level in ice core in Antarctica, right? I mean, they overuse the precision. And then they got lost. And then they start blaming this and that. And it's becoming terrible when you have a lot of this hysteria going on. No wonder phenomenon like Greta Thunberg is real, because these people was not supposed to even have a space to speak, but now they are dictating the policy. It's totally upside down. You know what I'm saying? A schoolgirl that doesn't want to go to school is dictating the world policy of how we use energy. I mean, that's ridiculous. And then proposing wind and solar. I mean, the first thing that Greta should do is basically lock herself in a room and, in fact, in a cave. Because all this structure, this asbestos, this cement, all these are all problem for them.
Right. So,
man, it's bad. But anyway, I think I dragged on a bit too long, but I do want to say all of that. You can see that I'm passionate, but I really want to convey a very simple point. Science have to be science, man. You know, if you mess around with that little things that we have, this is a very valuable tool, by the way, right? It is that tool that allow us so many things that we have now. And then yet nobody even appreciate. In fact, it's overused, right? They overuse and then people start playing around with it and it's becoming a mess. Especially when you have politics and all this sociology and all this other nonsense that are trying to control this. And organization, again, I have to blame it on AGU, National Academy of Science, EPA, Nobel Prize Foundation, all of this. You know, people first. These people really have to take a step back. You cannot keep lying to people like that. Putting out a curve, never explain how you get your curve. You cannot keep saying you have global warming. It's just truly nonsense. And this thing, I don't know how to stop it, but if there are many of us sharing information, sharing a truthful information, and then, of course, keep telling each other, like, I think you are very good at telling me if I'm wrong. I'll be happy to tell you, things like that from time to time, right? It's that if we don't do that, nothing will become straight. But at least we start from that level, right? And then we try to protect. For me, one more thing I want to mention. My passion now is to hope that I can still save a few kids. So I got involved with this group called Camp Constitution, which is run by my friend Hal Shutliff. So every summer we have some camp around here, New Hampshire, somewhere. But that's the only thing, the little things that anytime that I have, I'll give it to them, to try to do this. Save the kids, really, in the sense, to avoid them from being drawn into this nonsense and without questioning, with no ability to even ask questions. Not only that, now I guess if they start asking questions, they also will be punished. That sort of thing. It's such a sad world that we cannot do that. And we must not let them win. By the way, there's a good chance that they can win because what, they are good. They're happy to lie, they're happy to cheat, they're happy to do a lot of things that we are not willing to do. But we have to stop them. Right? I mean, I, for one, don't believe that Joe Biden won. You can put it down to the grave. I don't believe that Joe Biden is the true president, right? You come and arrest me if you want, but if you don't start speaking out like that, what is going to happen, right? I do not need any unnecessary burden, of course. I still have to take it, but I say, but if you're afraid down to that, no point of living, crazy, you know what I mean? Come on, man. So, goodbye, everybody. This is not the way to do it.
All right. So I do need to wrap up. I need to get on the road, but thank you very much. This has been super. I really enjoyed listening to you, and I hope we can do it again because I do have more questions next time.
Yes, but, please do that from time to time.
You're a hero in fighting for the truth and speaking out. So I'm very happy that I have the chance to talk to you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
All right. Talk to you next time. Bye.
Yeah, bye.